we went, and I was supposed to make reservations in Brookings, and I forgot. So we couldn't find a place in Brookings. So we went to Volga, South Dakota, and we stayed in an old hotel.
Went through the Badlands. I just loved it. I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never seen any of the big red rocks like that. Oh, I guess I thought we were in Yellowstone almost. I really liked it. That's my first trip I'd ever been on.
We went out there and we spent a few days out there, and then we said it was time to head home. And we were driving along to beat the dickens, and I was complaining about the sun. I didn't, in love, we were heading to the wrong way. We ran.
We're driving west. We're supposed to be going east.
We came back. We spent the night in the same motel that we spent the night before. Oh my! That was Joyce's fault. Her mother didn't want her to marry me
To go with you.
she saw my brother Ray come out of a tavern downtown one night, pretty well looped up, and she just kind of figured it ran in the family, I guess. But I don't know. I think we just went together for a long time, and
Then she liked you after a while when she got to know you. And then the night we got engaged, Glenn gave me a diamond out of the car in front of our house, the old house here. And I thought, I'm going to have to go up and show my mother right away, I ran up there to they were in bed, Mom and Dad were in bed. I said, look at what I got, Mom. We got a diamond, Glenn. Then she said, don't stay up too late now. We didn't.
this was an old chicken coop that we fixed up. We call it the Shack Gang, but actually what we did is we cleaned it up and had some old chairs and stuff in there, and then we would meet down there and, talk. We had comic books, sit and read and stuff like that. And then we kind of branched out. We decided we needed to make some money so we could fix it up a little bit. And one of the first jobs we did was cut down a great big tree, and it fell the wrong way and fell on somebody's chicken coop, so we had to repair that.
My older brother, his year and a half, had to milk cows, and even my twin sister milked cows, and she couldn't have been more in the first grade, but she liked to go outside. And I was always kind of an indoor person, so I got to stay indoors and take care of my younger brother and sister, who was Virgil and Violet, because they were 2.5 years younger. So I babysat them, and we did the supper dishes while they were out milking the cows. So this is at night. When we get done with our supper dishes, we go and stand by the window and watch for them to come back. We didn't have any modern conveniences, so Dad put in electricity. Before that, we had lamps with a mantle. We turned the oil up. And he fixed up a homemade wash machine in the back shanty right off the house, so Mother could wash clothes with a big old engine that made a lot of noise that ran the wash machine for her. Yeah, he made a lot of stuff, yeah. He made us a swing, a pole up, with a wheel on top, with all 5 swings coming down, so that when you turn one, they would all go around. That was our playground. Dad made that. We used to have snowstorms in the older days, much, much worse than we do now. And it was so thick that you couldn't see the barn from the house. We tied a rope under the handle at the house and took it down to the barn. This is all before I moved to town, which was the 3rd grade, so pretty young. It got so cold one winter, and we didn't have enough fuel. We burnt cobs in the cook stove. And so they actually cut down a tree, or maybe there was one laying out there. They took a tree into our dining room, which was the kitchen also, dining room table, and sawed wood in the house for the stove. And then my mother would dry clothes. We had clothesline spread across the living room. And when we walked around, we had to duck under the clothes. No place to dry it, no dryer. In wintertime, the cook stove kept the house warm. But we sure didn't need a dehumidifier. It's because we went to country school. We were pretty old-fashioned. We wore long underwear and long stockings. And we had a long driveway. We walked way down to the end of the driveway because it was cold. To get on the bus, nobody gave us a ride. And then we had kind of a little warming house at the end. We had to walk like a quarter of a mile down the driveway, because the long driveway, because we lived by the lake and the roads way out there.
Yeah.
So when we came to school, it wasn't long before we got rid of that long underwear with folded over at the ankle with a bump right there.
My dad was a very hard-working man. He was a foreman down at, like we talked earlier about me working down at the cement plant. Well, my dad was a foreman. And, I mean, he made you work. There was no doubt about it. If you had a 10-minute break, that's what you got, as a 10-minute break. As soon as that was up, you were back to work. And we were stripping tile down there one time. Myself, Cecil Paul, and a guy by the name of Carl Jasperson. And Dad was running this tile machine, and the break came. So we were sitting there and talking a little bit. My dad was a pipe smoker, and he sat down there and he lit it with a farmer match and threw the match over his shoulder, you know, and pretty soon Carl Jasperson nudges us, Cecil and I, and we looked, and Dad's match had landed by an old broom, one of them old brooms you sweep the floor with, and it started on fire. And then pretty soon it was blazing pretty good. Then it started a garment that was hanging on the wall on fire. And then that's when Dad noticed it. You should have seen him scramble to put that fire out. I mean, that's just a dumb. And my mother would pull ropes on us, you know, because we pulled them on her. And when we went to work one morning, we got down there, there wasn't a soul around. April Fool's Day, we didn't think about that. Well, Mom had set all the clocks different, so we got to work an hour early. My dad wasn't very happy about that. I had 1 week of college at Mankato, football, and then I found out that my father had cancer of the throat, and at that time, the parents put the people through, the children through college. There was no way that I could get any other money, so I couldn't put my dad through that strain. So I went back and I talked to the coach, and he told me that in a year, if you can come back, because your bones and stuff will be much better for our type of football. So I never went back. Dad passed away in 1946. I never went into the service until I was drafted in 1950. We were in the process of, Joyce and I had been married, and we were living in the old stucco house downtown. And the lumberyard man from Tyler, Alfred Larson, came out to us one time, and he said, I hear you're going to be drafted. Are you going to leave your wife in the basement? We had built a basement home and lived in it for a year and a half, too.
It was pretty nice down here.
So he said, you know, you can borrow some money pretty easy down at Pipestone. He named the bank. And so I went down and talked to him, and I borrowed some money. Can't believe it, they handed me a check for $6,000. I met one of the draft board guys downtown one day, and he said, how you coming with your house out there? And I said, well, we won't have it built by the time I'm half go into the service. A couple days later, I had a deferment of a month. So I spent one night upstairs before I went into the service. Then when I went over to Korea, we were all ready to board ship out in California. Then us guys with the survey MOS, they told us that we were going to Vancouver and fly over. So we flew over to Japan, spent a couple days there, and then we went by ship from Japan to Korea. And when we first got over there, I was really scared that night. When we got into the main tent, they had gotten their liquor rationed in, and of course they were sharing it with us so we could have a drink too as new recruits. Anyhow, they got a phone from Colonel Rogers told us to quiet it down. And someone says, "Who is it?" And I says, "This Colonel Rogers says you got to quiet down. Give me that phone," that guy says. So he gets on the phone and he says, "Colonel Rogers, it's February, and we were supposed to be home for Christmas. Now, if you think you're man enough to come up and make us be quiet, you come on right up." And he hung up. I thought, sure heck, that colonel was going to be up there. He never showed up. The 13 months that I was over there, we did survey work, and what we did is which I can't do anymore, climbed mountains to beat the dickens, and we did survey work so that if we got pushed back, we would know where to shoot. I liked the job. It wasn't too dangerous. We were never up the front line. We did get fired on a couple times. We'd be up on the outpost where some of these guys, there'd be always two guys in an outpost. I remember one time, two of us were up there and we were visiting with them, and shells started blasting. A little cannon, you know, mortars and stuff like that. But anyhow, this guy and I that were together, we jumped in a foxhole up there, and the other two guys stayed out, stood there, and we told them, "What are you guys, nuts?" And he said, "Well, first thing you have to know the difference between incoming and outgoing." When I came home from the service, I was going back to work for painting, and I did start painting, but my dream was to be a barber. And Gordon Edmark, the bulk agent from Standard, came up and he says, "Alfred wants to retire. Would you like to take over the gas station?" I says, "No, I can't believe that. I just don't believe I could work in there." Anyhow, then I waited a couple days, and I think Joyce and I probably talked it over. And
I said, "Don't be a barber, Glenn. All the barbers I know in town, they don't have anything. They're just poor people."
so I went back and talked to Gordon, and I went and talked to Alfred, and we agreed that I would start in this little station that was on the corner. And I think about a week later I went in there. I didn't have any money. Alfred borrowed me the money for my first day of business for change, and from then on I was on my own. Well, then that summer they went ahead and they built the new one behind the one on the corner. I pumped gas out of a small station on Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon I pumped out of the big station, and then they tore the little one down. 9 years later, when I decided that we were going to start the clothing store, because Joyce had been working there
At the K store.
Before we got married. When I met her, she was working in there. So then
It's a chain store, you know, the
I
K&K
came
store.
home one day. Well, I talked to the manager that was in there. There was a LIFO gas plant in the building, and I talked to Bud Beck, and I said, "You know, this should really be a clothing store again," because the K&K had closed up and was there no more. And he said, "You know, if you talk to the Williams brothers from Marshall who own this building, we could move to the back part and you could have the front part for a clothing store." So we made arrangements for that. So I came home to Joyce when I first messaged her. I said, "How would you like to go back to the clothing store again?" And
My stomach just churned.
but she was real happy because of the fact that she says, "I'm getting tired of being here," because I would open up at 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes get home till 11 and 12 o'clock at night. I was there all day long. Did this for about 3 years before I was able to hire a hired man to help out.
1963 we opened the store. We were very fortunate. When I was working in the K&K store, I worked there for 8 years, I believe. They had a grocery department, and there was a guy down there, Vic Graham, who was working in the grocery department, and I knew him quite well. Well, they started a store in Tracy. So when we needed to open a clothing store, we talked to Vic Graham, and I said, "Could we go along to market with you and find out how we buy clothes and stuff?" And he said, "Sure, we'll take you up and spend 2 days with you," which was really, really a big help.
And that one year we bought house dresses like crazy because we were getting really good deals on house dresses. I figured up when we went back to the hotel that we bought 600 house dresses. I said, the town has only got 1,200 people in it. That every wife in town has got to wear a house dress. And I want to go cancel some. I don't know if we did. We sold them.
We made a good team. We won a jitterbug contest up there one time too.
We actually did.
Yeah, and I think it was a case of the fact that who had the most friends there. That's from
Glenn knew all the salesmen. You know how Glenn is with salesmen.
We had some good parties up there too with some of those salesmen we got. We went to Hawaii with the salesman one time.
Oh, wow.
God, did we have fun. And then I made the mistake of telling Louis Brower, if you ever go to Hawaii, let me know, we'll probably go with you. Well, a year or two later, they decided they wanted to go to Hawaii, and never had such a boring time in all my life.
You could just keep her home from golfing and mow the lawn, stuff like that, I'd have it made. But I want to thank all of you guys for coming. You know, we've got another big celebration coming up in just 5 days, and we know you'll all be thinking of us on that day. It's been a great 65 years. I guess maybe when I asked her to marry me, I just didn't know that it would last this long. But really, truthfully, we've gotten along real good. We've done a lot of things together. We've had a few arguments. But you know one thing? I have to say this. Every night we have a kiss goodnight. Many times we say our prayers together, and I think that kept our family together. And I'm thankful that you guys all made it tonight. I know some of you made special efforts, a lot of miles to travel, a lot of miles to go back. Just want you to know I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aww.